Gentlemen. All right, guys, we are live right here on my Chromebook computer. There it goes. Okay, now finally live. What's going on? This is Pastor Sean, welcoming you to a new episode of Death Church Radio and Death Church Radio podcast, and also Sean C. Stuckey Show on Facebook. I guess somewhere between with the weekly shows, because I upload a video every Sunday, it's somewhere between like 20 to 30,000 people click on these videos to watch, at least on the Facebook page. And then it gets a couple hundred views here and there for the people who actually sit through and watch the videos. So, and the videos go out throughout all over the world. So I'm very thankful for that because of Facebook. So thank you, Mark Zuckerberg, for that. What I wanted to do today, now that it's getting to be a colder weather out there here in Arizona. You can see that I'm actually now wearing my leather jacket now. It's become a normal temperature, like a normal degrees. And then now the weather's finally dropping. It's now October 13th of 2019. So, and also what I've been doing for the last couple of days is I've been actually dressing like the old school me back when I was living in California. And that actually brings me to why I want to make this video today. So about 10 years ago when I got saved, and if you guys haven't watched it, go ahead and go back into my YouTube channel archive videos. I put out a video a couple months ago called 10 Years Saved. It's one of a two-part video where I talk about coming up all the way to being saved in June of 2009. So what I would like to do today is make a throwback kind of video. So, and I actually got pretty good sleep last night. I slept finally like 9 to 10 hours when I've been only getting about 3 to 4 hours of sleep for the last week or so. Anyways, and it's about these two college groups that I did for it was actually technically the second church. It's called the Three Cross Church or Neighborhood Church. I don't know if it's a different name now because I haven't been back since 2011. It's almost the end of 2019. And the pastor that was running these college groups, his name was Pastor Joe. So it's been now 10 years since I officially started going to both of the services, even though technically the 2.3 video, so the one I wrote on here, that was the name of the college group that was on, I believe, Wednesday nights. It turned into something else. And then I eventually started going to Praxis, which was run by this guy named Pastor Kevin. That was 2010, though. So I actually only went to these two groups, these two Bible studies, only for about 4 months. So it was a really quick thing. So, and I didn't really want to make a script for this video. I just wanted it to just be a flow of consciousness kind of thing. But anyways, this is why I'm all decked out and dressed kind of crazy today, even though normally I'm actually dressing just more formal or stylish or whatever it is lately that you've probably seen in my, some of my videos. But I wanted to do some throwback. This is actually how I dressed along with, other things back when I was going to that college group. Even got my, my girlfriend dyed my hair black a couple weeks ago. So the thing is that I wanted to reflect on going to these first college groups because I seldom had any information in my mind about the Bible. I just knew basic things, like very, very basic things, and things that was taught to me through, I'm not sure, like just mostly my dad, but it was pertaining to Mormonism at the time. I mean, he's still a Mormon today, but the thing is that when I did not have a set of theology, I did not have my own theology. I never had my own statement of faith, or I didn't have anything going into this church group or these two church groups. The Ichthus being the one that really, really pertained to me personally. And it was mainly because of the guy that I mentioned. His name is Pastor Joe. I'm pretty sure he's still a pastor. We haven't really talked in a while, but anyways, first going to the group, it was very different. And I remember being very, technically the first one I went to was 2.3. I believe that was on a Wednesday night, and at the time I had been fired from Hutch's Car Wash. Okay, I remember that. So I'd been let go from that job. That was 2006, like March 2006 to June of 2007. So I remember at the time that I was unemployed and I was dating this woman who her and her friends were praying for me, because at the time, as you guys know from my previous videos, I used to be a Satanist and used to be into like getting books from the library on conducting Celtic magic, black magic, white magic, all these different things. More of the Odin mindset back then. Also, like if I were to say that I had a god, it would be either Thor or Odin back then. So, technically it was Satan back then. So that's a whole other video you can watch. But anyways, so I got saved because the woman I was dating at the time and her friends were praying for me, and she was talking to me a lot about Jesus because she was going to this place called Mesquite Community Church here in Tucson. I don't know if they're still around or not, but it's like a really small, tiny church. So I ended up getting saved in June 2009. And she said that I needed to start going to a church because my 3 friends who were all brothers also got saved the same time I did. So 4 of us in our crew got saved in the same month, which is pretty crazy. So we went to this Baptist church in Oakland, and I only went there for about 2 weeks. They made me the doorman, and one of the other jobs that his name was Pastor Majors that he gave to me was he wanted me to walk women, me and some of the other guys to walk women to their cars because the area in Oakland was not too friendly and wasn't too, it was a bit, it was a bit dangerous. Nothing ever happened to anyone I knew over there from that church or me. So I guess you see the cloak of the Lord was over us, or the protection of the Lord, I should say. But so anyways, so getting back into it, then so I quit going to that church after 2 weeks, and I was talking to my girlfriend at the time as to where I should go. So because I just got saved, I was really on fire. I wanted to, even though there was still like a lot that needed to be worked out in my head and my heart, like a lot needed to be worked out because I was leaving the occult, that I needed to get into a church quickly. So really, the main reason I quit going to that church in Oakland was just because I didn't have a car. So, and it was pretty far from my house. It was like a 20-minute drive there and back. So anyways, so I ended up going to Three Cross Church in Castro Valley, which was it wasn't too far of a walk. It was like a 30-minute walk, like 20-30 minutes going there and back. So from my parents' house. So she talked me. So my ex at the time talked me, or my girlfriend at the time talked me into going to one of the services after I went to the Sunday morning service. And I remembered that I said, okay, well, I actually been to that church when I was 12 because my mother got a job babysitting for the kids ministry. Like she helped out along with the main teacher that was teaching the kids. So I'm not, it was like when I was around 11 or 12, I remember my brother was like in soccer at the time. And so I remember I sat down and talked to her about it. And she said, yeah, that was Three Cross Church. So I said, okay, I'm just going to go try that out because it's in walking distance. So I did. And I just ended up going to that church. I went to the Sunday morning church. His name was Pastor Larry Vold, who was preaching. And it was a mega church. So what I ended up doing is I liked it a lot. I called my girlfriend at the time and said, I really like it. I want to try this place out. And I found out through their website that they had a college group called 2.3 and that there was another one called Ichthus. So I tried the 2.3 on the Wednesday. And I remember walking in, and that's when I met this guy. His name was Eric, who ended up becoming my boss. So for this company called Best of Legacy. Let's see how much. Okay, already 9 minutes here. Okay, so he ended up becoming my boss. I remember walking in there and I was so just stressed out. I was so ridiculously nervous because I had dealt with these problems for many years of being antisocial and having social phobias. So just different things like that. Just not being a people person. I completely lacked self-confidence and just had no, sense of like self-esteem or anything like that. So it was very difficult for me to interact with people I didn't know. I still have those problems nowadays, but it is not nearly as bad as it used to be. So it's like a lot better. So anyways, that's where I met my boss, and then that's also where I met Pastor Joe, along with some other people that ended up not being in the Ichthus Bible study. It was just kind of their own thing. It ended up turning into something else in a different part of the church, but I forgot what it was called. And then that's around the time period, no, because I left to come here to Tucson, then I went back to a year later, or about 5 months later, I came back here to Tucson, and then I had left for a year. But anyways, it's a bit confusing with the process of that. But anyways, so the thing is that that's where I met Pastor Joe, my boss, and I think that was all the people that I met at the time. And I actually still remember the sermon. I'm not sure why, because I can't tell you how many sermons I've been to over the years of how many churches and men's groups and worship services, worship practice. Like, I've been to so many things, but even just recently, that I was telling you guys in a previous video recently that I actually started going back to church because my girlfriend talked me into it. It wasn't really something that I didn't not want to do. It's just there's a lot of negativity and connotations that are connected with the church, with me personally, that I was still struggling to get over. But now that the things have already been gotten over and I've moved on, I'm now going back to church on a regular basis. We go to 3 different churches right now. So just didn't do it today because I woke up at 10, because last night I was at the Wildcat University of Arizona game where they took on the Huskies or something. So the game lasted till 1 in the morning or 12. So that's why I didn't go to church today. But anyways, I'm going to be going to church on Tuesday at the Pantano Christian Church for holy yoga, for what they call it. But anyways, I'm off track here. I remember the sermon when I walked in, because I remember sitting at a table with 2 very attractive females and then this one guy, but I had never saw them ever again, after that. So, because that was the only time I actually been to 2.3, because I just ended up going to Ichthus instead for the rest of the 4 months, and then I ended up leaving California, and I left in December. So, because I came here around the last or the 3rd week of December, I know it was before Christmas here in 2009. So I came to Tucson in December 2009, and then I ended up leaving in May 2010, and then came back May 2011. I've been here ever since. So anyways, I remember that Pastor Joe was talking about in 2.3. So this had to have been July, I think. This had to have been July 2009, where he was talking about this sermon using Johnny Cash as a reference, and that he talked about this song. I don't know what the verse was that he was talking about, but it was this song where he said, the same guy we pray to is the same guy who was walking around, not Calvary, but what is the place? I can't remember where he's from. Jesus, where is he from? I don't know. I'm getting a couple different words in my head right now. Okay. Anyways, you guys know where he's from. So, anyways, there was a Johnny Cash reference, and he was saying, so the same living God that was from 2,000 years ago is the same God we talk to when we pray, like when we have our private prayer times at home, or when we pray for the people around us or with them at services and whatnot. And I remember that was a really profound thing. And then I remember he was also talking about, he used the Simpsons reference where Bart came in to see Abraham Simpson into the old folks home, and a lot of people, a lot of older people came out at the same time, and they thought that they were Bart's grandpa or something like that. It was like an older episode. I haven't seen that episode in a really long time, but I remember he made that reference, and it was like, "Oh, did you come here to see me?" And he was like, "No." And they're like, "Oh." So it was something like that. I forgot what the point was to the sermon, but I remember those things. I remember it. I just remember that it had like a really profound impact on me, thinking that the same guy that I'm talking to, the same God, was walking here on earth 2,000 years ago in Israel. I thought that was really interesting, because I never thought about that before at the time, because this was just still my introduction into the faith of learning all these things in the Bible. And I remember that Pastor Joe was just so good at his job. Like, he took a profound interest in me at the time. Like, this pastor really believed in discipling, like doing what the Bible says, really using your talents to make the kids feel like that they're a part of something in the college group. So I remember Pastor Joe, because I walked into this room. So this is how things started. I walked into this room, and there was like this game machine to the right. I don't know, I'm pretty sure it was like broken or something. And then the gymnasium was like down the stairs to the left, and then to the right, you had to go down underground to get to the service, which was basically just a hangout area with couches and chairs and tables and stuff. And they had a sound guy. His name was Dom, and I ended up becoming his friend for about a year. And he was like a vocalist in a metal band. The sound tech guy was. But I remember going down there, kind of dressing like a maniac kind of thing. And sorry, I'm just been having bad allergies lately. So anyways, actually, I'm going to get, before I continue this, I'm going to go get a drink really quick. So just stay tuned. I can't edit this part. So just give me a second. Okay. Sorry, guys. It's just like the air. Like, I had a bloody nose last night at the game, because the air is just so dry here that like it clogs up your throat, and you feel like you're getting like cotton mouth, where like you can't talk. That happens sometimes in Tucson. So anyways, I remember I walked down, and I remember this happening, that I was wearing this black shirt that said Extreme Championship Wrestling on it. And then it said the dates of the company of when it started and ended. And it said never forget on it. Sorry. So I walked downstairs, and I ran into this guy. His name was Kyle. I said hi, and I met him. And then I met some other people, and some guy named Cake that I ended up being friends with for about a year or so also. So then I ran into the assistant pastor. He was like a pastoral intern who was learning from Pastor Joe. His name was Pastor Glenn. So I ended up running into him, and then he immediately just starts telling me about, like, right when I said, hi, my name is Sean. This is my first time coming to church since I used to go to the Mormon church back when I was an early teenager, because I left the Mormon church at age 14. So, and he immediately starts talking to me about the barely legal pay-per-view. So, and it's from this wrestling show that's really extreme, of something that at the time, even still nowadays, something I'm still very much into, even though it is not, this thing is completely not godly at all. But the experience was just so profound on me, again, that this guy, I just couldn't believe, because I've thought about this so many times over the years, like, especially if I'm working and I have downtime at work. This has happened so many times, coming into thought that the master and the creator of the universe knew how much I loved, ECW, and, like 90s pro wrestling, like 80s and 90s wrestling, and some mid 2000s wrestling, but especially ECW. That was my favorite one. Like my favorite, like I'll just name this off really quick. Like if anybody is watching this who was like a wrestling fan from that time period, Cactus Jack was my favorite. Raven, Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, Dean Malenko, the Sandman, Sabu, Taz. Like there's, Paul Varlins was in that for a sec. I used to be such a big fan of this stuff, and I don't know why, but I just came to church with just a shirt I normally wore. It said ECW on it, and he started talking to me about the first pay-per-view and how he ordered it when it first came out in like 1997 or 1998. Keep in mind at this time it's 2009, so I just could not believe that, like what I was saying earlier, I could not believe that the Master of the Universe used me not used me, but made me feel connected immediately. Like right when I got into church and I was super nervous. The 2.3 thing went like really well, but the Ichthus one is the one that really like drew me in. So like I still have all Pastor Joe's papers that he gave me, like over the probably year and a half that I was going to his services. I still got them in my drawer thing over here. So like I kept all of them. So I kept for like 3 years straight. I would keep all of the notes of anything anyone would give me, and I would like write down stuff in the Bible. I still do that today, where I just thoroughly write things down in the Bible. I mean, there was a church that I went to like 2-3 weeks ago that was in this place called I'm probably going to mispronounce it, Los Cruces, New Mexico. And we went to a church, and I was just jotting down notes the whole time. So anyways, the thing is that he made me feel, this guy, Pastor Glenn, he made me feel so interconnected, where this place felt so right and so welcoming, that even though that the company was like a rated R kind of company, it was definitely not Christian-y like at all. Like God used this moment and used Pastor Glenn to connect to me, which I just still like to this day, it still like blows my mind that happened. So I'm just gonna open the blinds here. So anyways, and then Pastor Joe wanted me, and then when I met him, I think at the same service, because it was the first service, he really just like did such a great job. Like even along the lines of his way of crafting and producing sermons for us, for the kids, he would do it in such a way where it felt like you were going to see like, amateur night, like at stand-up comedy. Like he was making you laugh at the same time with his jokes that were, still family friendly and stuff like that. Like this guy is, even to this day, I still think back on how mad talented this guy was at being a pastor. Like he just made you care so much about coming to church and learning the Bible, reading the Bible, and, having a good prayer life. And, you got to come to the other services too. Like this guy, he just really cared. And to this day, I know I've said this in a different video, but to this day, it's October 2019. To this day, I have not met a pastor like Pastor Joe. So at the at the college ministry, I have not met someone personally that cared that much about, okay, I need to do this job to the best of my ability. Like I need to put in 100% into this job. I have not met a pastor like that. Like I can't tell you how many hundreds of hours of services. I mean, even I was just at a service recently that I had to talk to my girlfriend after work, because last Thursday I was going to go to the men's group. Sorry, I'm getting caught mouth again. Just got to bear with me, guys. Bear with me. Okay. So, I mean, I was just having the struggle recently. Like last Thursday, I told my girlfriend when I came off work, and it was a really, really brutal shift. because nowadays I'm an anesthesia technician at a surgery center, so, and also an OR assistant. So it's an ER, but it's not like where people can just be rushed in right then and there. You have to have an appointment. That's really the only difference between an ER and an OR, like at a hospital or surgery center. So anyways, I've been going to this men's group at the Calvary Church on Thursday nights. It's a thing called Men of Honor. And I just told my girlfriend, you know what? It's boring. I mean, that sounds bad, but it's boring. No one has a vested interest. This guy his name is Rick. It just seems like he just doesn't really care if I'm there or not. Like, it's just a thing where it's just a big cloud of, well, whatever. There's some guys you can see that are trying to make this interesting and trying to, like, it's more of like the setting of like a Presbyterian church where, we're just going to focus on the fact if you're getting something from the Holy Spirit, and everything else, if it's white walls and if the sermon's boring and everything, well, we're still doing our jobs, because the Holy Spirit's supposed to be the thing that convicts you and makes you want to come back. I'm more of a charismatic guy, but like Christian, I mean, I'm like a Calvinist now. I have been for a while, but anyways, I'm like a, Calvinist meets charismatic, non-denominational kind of thing. But anyways, so, I mean, I told her I don't want to go anymore, and I don't want to go to the service. I've been going for about 3 weeks, and it's just, we just hear a sermon that I feel I don't know if this is pride or whatever, but it was just something I feel I don't really need to hear, especially coming off of a shift at my job was most of the time on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and Fridays. Those are like the 3 worst days of the week at work, and it's a pretty brutal, fast-paced job where you got to care for like a lot of people, and you got to help a lot of people coming in and out of surgery and preparing for surgery. Like, there's a lot you have to do. And I was telling her, like, I'm sorry, but I don't want to sit there and watch an hour-long sermon when it's like, even when I first came in, the guy was completely unprepared. He didn't know what he was talking about when he was trying to go through the book of Ephesians. And like, immediately there, I was like, this is not going to last. I'm not interested. And then the thing that just really got to me is, not only is it just so like awkward with the guys in my group, but they kept, I'm excuse. Okay, excuse me. Sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied here. Not only did the guys doing the sermons keep going over their times, we didn't have any time to talk, but it was really awkward at the same time. It's like, why am I here? So that was a thing that really just pushed it over the edge with me, where I didn't want to go. We weren't allowed to talk. We could talk, but we got like 5 minutes. And then we had to go back to do some more praying and stuff. It's like a Catholic service. So I said, yeah, no thanks. And I quit going. Pastor Joe in Ichthus was not like this at all. Like, the first time I came in, he was saying, okay, well, looks like you like goth music, and you like that dark metal music that the guy Dom is into, like, because, we had like a small discussion about things of music and things that I'm into. Like, he just genuinely cared about getting to know you. Like, he wanted you to feel like you were part of something. So he said, he was like, well, since you haven't read any of the Gospels, I'm going to have you read the Gospel of Mark, I believe. And it was Mark or Matthew. And he said, pretty sure it was Mark. And he said, because in this book, this one has the most amount of exorcisms performed out of the 4 Gospels. So, because I told him about my past and the whole thing of Satanism, and I was really into the occult and using Ouija boards and things like that, way back in the day, and how around the time period before I got saved, me and my old friend, or 2 old friends from high school, were also Satanists that lived in, the ghetto of like the south side of Hayward. We were going to take the BART train to go down to San Francisco to go see if we could join the Anton LaVey's Church of Satanism at the time. So luckily, not luckily, but thank God that God intervened and I got saved. Thank God. Because I don't know what path I would have been down, like, at this point. Like, if I would have stayed with all the things of like darkness and whatnot. Anyways, so the thing is is that he said, go ahead and read the book of Mark. Just study the book. And then he would invite me to his office to have talks. He introduced me to other pastors that worked at the church, people that were going to the church there. And we ended up doing this thing where we went to San Francisco, and it was a bunch of us. I think this was actually like 6 months later or something like that. We ended up going to San Francisco in like 6 different cars, and we handed out all these burritos, and we prayed for the homeless and stuff like that. Like we did this night strike kind of thing with like the homeless people there. So, and I remember that's the time when I also started fasting. So I don't want this video to be too long. So I'm just going to talk about it for like maybe a little bit more. And this is the time when I started fasting. I was trying to fast for like 24 hours. And then also this was around the time period when I met Jerome, who was one of the Stephen ministers, which is something I'm still trying to get into myself, because I think that I would, it'd be perfect for me to do this kind of job, to be a therapist, but a Christian therapist. And because at the time I couldn't stop breaking my cell phones. But, I've coping with anger kind of thing at the time, even like nowadays, it's still pretty prevalent. But anyways, so it's it was a thing. And I also remember that at the time there was also, I'm just going to go through this briefly, but there was a guy there who had such a long beard. He was bald on top. I remember he was wearing like blue like overalls. When I came to the church, it was called 613. I ended up becoming the doorman for that, but it was like the youth ministry version of the Sunday morning service. So 613 is basically a service that started at night, Sunday nights at 613. And I ended up becoming the door guy. Like, thank you for coming 613. I hand out the pamphlets. So I actually kept all those pamphlets from when I did that for about 6 months. Those are also all in my bucket right there with all my other papers. So, like, as you guys can see, this had a profound impact on me of going to this Three Cross Church. Like, I will never forget it. Like, it was very, very profound. I'm so glad that God led me there, and that, my mother took the job there when I was 12. So I had that memory and to be reminded to go to this church. But anyways, so there was this guy who had a beard that was like really big, even though he's bald on top. And he told Pastor Joe that he was going to grow his beard to the ground, and it was going to be like it was going to drag behind him as he walked or something like that. I met the guy twice, or met him once and talked to him very briefly twice at the 613 thing. And then, unfortunately, the Lord took him, and I was like 2 months into being saved. And this was my first experience with somewhat knowing somebody that ended up, he died in a car accident from what I remember. So, and Pastor Joe, actually, we did a service in the room that we would have the ichthus thing in. And I remember at the time that I was fasting that day for the Lord, and my blood sugar dropped because I have low blood sugar problems along with having heart problems. So, because I was diagnosed with panic disorder back a year before I got saved. No, it was actually 2007 or 2006 that I got diagnosed with anxiety disorder. I still don't take the medications. But anyways, so, and we had a service, or they had a service for that guy. And I remember that people brought in like Little Caesars pizza, and I ended up just succumbing to it. And I was like, oh, Lord, I'm so hungry. I have to eat it. And so I ended up doing that. And I remember I got like a bad stomach ache or something like that. But and then Pastor Joe told this story about this guy and how, just very briefly, like this guy had a pretty difficult life. And, from what it sounded like, it was, kind of along the same lines of, my upbringing. But his was like worse with I'm not going to get into what I remember as the statistics for it, or the whatever for it. But I remember there was this thing where he went to this place called Hume Lake. I still have never been there, but I've been to the Salt River recently. Like, me and my girlfriend used an oar on a surfboard to get around a mountain. Like, we're on the water for like over 3 hours. But anyways, I'm thinking Hume Lake is like that, or Lost Canyon or something. But there was one point where this guy, I think his name was Chris or something. I forgot his name. But he picked up this big boulder and he dropped it like on a skunk to kill it. So, so I mean, this guy, unfortunately, he he died, and he died pretty young too. I think he was in his somewhere in his 20s, but like his early 20s. But I mean, he's in eternal bliss right now with Jesus. He's in paradise right now. So, I mean, it's not. I mean, to me personally, being a nihilist, but knowing God's grace and having a good idea of these things of the afterlife, from the things I've studied in the Bible, this guy's in eternal bliss with Jesus. So where the streets are like paved of gold and the houses are made of jewels, like it's in a place of perfection, and he's in his final form right now. So in his new created form after the flesh. So even though it does say in Genesis chapter 2 that the foundations, after it also says in 2 Peter when the Lord wipes the earth with fire, that the world here is going to be the new Eden. It's going to be the new Jerusalem. So here on earth is going to be God's kingdom. It's just everything's going to be fixed. So anyways, and I've been going off and on to that service, making sure I went every, I think it was, I don't remember if it was Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday that I was going to these services. I don't remember. I ended up going to like the Wednesday morning service that was like at 6 to 7 a.m. I was going to church like 4 or 5 days a week at the time. Everything revolved around me learning to be more like Jesus. I wanted to be as close to Jesus and as close to perfection as like humanly possible. So at the time, and this went on for about 3-4 years, all the way up until Calvary. And, if you guys watched my previous videos, you know what happened with that. But that wasn't good. But anyways, so, and then it got to the point, where me and Pastor Joe were hanging out, like outside of work, along with when I was hanging out with the guy, Jerome, who was my therapist at the time. I saw him on Wednesday nights, like at Taco Bell and Jack in the Box and stuff. Met him at Pete's Coffee. That's why I still drink Pete's Coffee to this day, because of the hangout, that hangout Pete's Coffee that we used to go to, that was next to that big Safeway that was down the street from my house. That it wasn't like, it was close to the Castro Valley Village. I mean, so it was a place called Pete's Coffee in there. And so anyways, and that's where I would hang out with a lot of the guys from church and the women from church. And so, it just seemed like up until Pastor Joe was asked to leave, which still, I mean, to this day, it's, I don't know. But even to this day, it just has a sour taste in my mouth when, because no one ever explained anything to me. No one really knew why Pastor Joe left. Three Crosses, not why he left, but why he was asked to leave. Like I don't know what happened. Frankly, I don't really care to know, because so much has happened since then. It's been 10 years. It's been a decade since then. And I just have the memories of every, we like play dodgeball, like downstairs in the gymnasium. And there was one time a bunch of kids came in when Pastor Joe was teaching. It happened twice actually, because Pastor Kevin Parr, I think that was his name, when he did Praxis, a bunch of kids from Hume Lake who were teenagers and like people in their late teens and early 20s came down. We all played dodgeball and whatnot, but hung out. And Malachi was another guy. Just remember, that's another guy that I used to hang out with. And there was I knew everybody in that. I'm pretty sure I knew everybody in that service, because that's all I wanted. I just wanted to have a family, close-knit atmosphere with Christians. And that's, at the time, that was one of the most important things to me. And then I told you about that guy, Eric, where I ended up working for him for about 6 months or so. It was about 4 months. No, I worked for him longer than that. But anyways, so where I would just go walk down to one of the Starbucks and I would just look up information for $100 check every 2 weeks or every month or so. To look up stuff about these sports athletes to make them what he called yearbooks. And he actually came to my house once and showed me what a yearbook looks like. for these, because they would pay like thousands and thousands of dollars for these things. Sorry, getting cotton mouth again. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I remember before I left, I said, hey, I'm going to go see my girlfriend for the first time. And this was in December, and he said, okay. And then I remember I don't remember exactly what happened. I do remember the Halloween service. I think that's why I wanted to make this video, because I put on like these UFC gloves that somebody brought in. It's just, I think his name was Nathan. He brought in like these UFC gloves. These are not it. It's just some gloves I got for my birthday. But, and we all took a picture together while I was like going like this in the background. I was like, well, I'm a UFC fighter. And we had this fashion runway show or something with everyone dressing up in different things. I mean, nowadays I don't believe in that, but you know, like the truck or treat thing, I don't really believe in those things anymore, because I think it just pays an homage to Satan, even if you're doing it in like a nice Christian-y rated G kind of way. It makes me feel like weird and uncomfortable now, but looking back on it, it was like really fun. And, you know, I'm just so appreciative that like it seemed like almost everyone in this service was like my best friend, and both the pastors were just so cool and you could tell they just put all of themselves. They put their whole heart on the line. You know, they put their theology on the line. They put everything on the line for us to have us grow and lift up and whatnot. Like Pastor Joe, like we met at this like Mexican food place that was at this market. You know, we met at like a bunch of different places to talk about God, spirituality, demonology, because demonology is like I would say my strongest suit when it comes to teaching things of the Bible. Spiritual warfare is like the thing I know the most about. But you know, because I have like 4 or 5 videos on my channel just with that subject alone. But actually reading a book right now that I'm going to be doing probably either for next week's video. Hold on just a second. Next week's video, or probably a video in 2 weeks. I don't know if you guys can hear me, but I'm actually doing a video. Going to be doing a video about Satanism right here. So the Seduction of America's Youth by Pastor or Reverend Bob Larson. So he's performed something like 40,000 exorcisms. But so that's going to be either next week's video or the video after that. But anyways, just to wrap this up, because this is going on way too long. So I remember that I told Pastor Joe, hey, could you pray for me? Can you and Pastor Glenn pray for me before I get on the plane? Because I was nervous about it. Like I ended up taking this, one of my mom's, when I was with my dad at the Oakland airport. I believe it was in the morning. I forgot actually when I got on the plane, but I took one of her antidepressants. I popped it before I got on the plane because I was so like nervous, like my heart was racing and stuff like that. But anyways, and he said that he was going to pray for me after the service. But what happened is that we did this thing that we did before, like 2 months before, where we all laid hands on one person. And so Pastor Joe did that with me, and also Pastor Glenn, where everybody put their hand on me, and they all took turns, or not all of them, but a couple of them took turns praying for me, praying for my safety, and praying that, you know, I would stay on the walk. I would continue to bow my knee to the cross and things like that. And I remember, it was just so profound on me that he just cared so much, you know. So I'm just going to end it with this, because then I ended up getting on the plane to come here to Tucson. And who knows if this whole thing was a mistake or not, because I'm going to say no, but it's just now I'm planning on leaving again. So, who knows if it's going to happen or not? I'm not sure. But anyways, I just wanted to reflect on 2.3 and Ichthus, like with you guys, and how special it was and how much these things meant to me from back then. Like it was just such a positive, just magical time back going to those Wednesday night ones. Even when I came back from, because I went to Tucson until May. So I was there for about 5 months and then came back, because I got there in like mid-December around Christmas, and I got back in May, and then I rejoined with Pastor Joe, but I don't remember what the service was that was called on Wednesday nights because Ichthus folded. But Ichthus was the one I remember the most, that it just had the most profound and I just felt so blessed. Like it was just so, like, just like I said, to this day, I've been to so many services. I've been to so many churches in California, Arizona, New Mexico. Like I've been to like online services with people. Like I've been to so many things, and nothing. There was a couple that came close, but nothing was like this. Nothing was like Ichthus in my time that I had there with Pastor Joe and Pastor Glenn. So just reflecting that, it's just kind of weird that it's been 10 years since it's been 10 years since I've been to these services. It's been 10 years since I got saved. It's just so weird that so much time from that time period back when I was 20, like I was 21 years old. I mean, I'm 31 now. It's just crazy how much time has passed, and, all the things I've learned since then, and all the things all the very dark times I've been through since those services in California, like all coming back to now. I'm now back to church. Like, it's just so crazy. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I actually didn't mean to make the video this long. It's already at 46 minutes. I was actually only planning maybe doing like 10, 20 minutes, but that's just a lot of a lot of memories came up, and I wanted to relay it to you guys and stuff about my past. So thank you guys for watching. We're going to go ahead and end this live stream. Once again, my name is Pastor Sean, or Pastor Stookie. You can just call me Sean. For Death Church Radio and Death Church Radio podcast, and also for the Sean C. Stookie Show on Facebook. So let's go ahead and end this. And okay, guys, and God bless. Bam.